and it supports both procedural and object programming languages. And it is a multi paradigm programming language that supports object oriented programming. It's called as OOPS, created by Big Journey startup in 1983. It's completed. And Bell Labs. C++ is an extension of C programming, and the programmers written in C language can run in the C++ compiler. And you know that compiler is the translator, which translates from machine language to binary language in order to understand by the computer. So compiler is the translator. The development of C++ is actually began 4 years before this release. That means it is 1979. It did not start with the name C++. Its first name was C with classes. C with classes, and then it's named as C++. In the late part of 1983, C with classes was first used for AT&T and internal programming needs. Its name was changed to C++ later in the same year. And another case of C++, encapsulation hides the data to ensure that data structures and operators are used intended. And also C++, also known as object driven language. Object driven language. It supports both function and operator overloading. And it supports inheritance, polymorphism throughout the derivation. Dynamic binding is provided by virtual class function. So we know that C and C++ differences is C is the procedural language and C++ is both procedural and object oriented programming language. It is a top-down approach. C is a top-down approach used in program design. Top-down, one after another sequence. Whereas bottom-up approach adopted in programming design in C++. In C language, multiple declaration of global variables are allowed. In C++, multiple declaration of global variables are not allowed. A C++ program is a collection of commands which tells the computer to do something. This is called as commands using C++ source code. And C++ supports the function overloading and operator overloading also. And C requires all the variables to be defined at the starting of a scope, and we have to declare the declaration section. So what variables are going to utilized in body of the programming. You have to declare everything, every variable you have to declare in declaration section in case of C language. Whereas C++ allows the declaration of variables anywhere in the scope, that is at the time of first use where you required. In C language, malloc and calloc functions are used for memory allocation and free function for memory deallocating. In C++, new and delete operators are used for memory allocation and deallocation. Generally, we are using C languages. C++ is used by programmers to develop computer software. It is used to create general system software, used to build drivers for various computer devices, software for servers and software for applications, used in the creation of video games. Using C++, you can develop system software like OS, device drivers, network application software. You can do the applications. Programming principles defines set of rules and regulations for the organization of data and instructions. Process monolithic programming, process oriented programming, modular oriented programming, structure oriented programming, object oriented programming, like that. Generally, so many advantages in C++. Here is a modularity. Modularity is advantage. So modularity means dividing a program into small pieces. Small pieces. It's also called as divide and conquer according to their operations into small modular. So instead of calling entire program, we can call a specified part of the program. It is very useful. And reusability. One more the advantage, reusability. Write code once and use more than one time, and that means there is no need to write again and again. Readability, use it to read and understand. It's a C++ is relatively low level and is a system programming language. It has a large community. It has a relatively clear and mature standard. Modularity means we said no, modularity is dividing a program into small pieces. So reusability and the readability. So these are the advantages, and disadvantages also is there. Code redundancy. The same operation has to be more than one time. The same sequence has to copy at some places. Size of program is increase. Efficiency of the program is decrease. And data is global or local. Its emphasis and instructions, but not on data. Data is global or local, and it emphasizes on instructors but not on data. It can be generally heavy if not careful. Data is global, and global data does not have security. Standard libraries. And one more disadvantage of C++ is it has no security, and complex in a very large high level program, and used for platform specific application commonly, and it's for a particular operating system or a platform. The library set has usually chosen that locks, and it is very difficult to debug the applications, web applications, very difficult. And C++ also it's not support garbage collection. So these are all the advantages and disadvantages. The next one, we can discuss the standard libraries. The C++ standard library provides several generic containers or functions to utilize, manipulate these containers, functions, objects, strings and streams, supports for some languages, and functions for everyday tasks such as finding square root of a number, like that. Some if it is sine, cos, tan functions is there, we have go for the mathematical library functions, like that. Related functions, we got the related library. And C++ standard library also incorporates most headers of the ISO standard library, ending with .h. The file extension is .h. .h means header. There is a header file, but their use is deprecated. No other headers in C++ standard library and in .h. The C++ standard library is based upon conventions introduced by the standard templates library, that is also called as STL, and has been influenced by the research, generic programming, and developers of the STL such as Alexander Stepnow. C++ standard library can be categorized in two parts: the standard function library and object oriented class library. Whereas standard function library, this library consists of general purpose standalone functions that are not part of any class. The function library is inherited from C. So the second one is the object oriented class library. This is a collection of classes and associated function. Standard C++ library incorporates all the standard C libraries, also with small additions and changes to support type safety. Standard library is another open source implementation. It was originally developed commercially and later donated to the Apache Software Foundation. After more than 5 years without a release, the board of Apache Software Foundation decided to end this project and move it to Apache Attic. So this is the history and of the standard library. And one most important topic is the structure of the C++ programming. Structure means it's a procedure, how to write the programs, where you have to start the programs. So like that, you have to follow the procedure. That is a structure. Structure C++ program is structured in a specific and particular manner, particular way you have to write. In C++ program is divided into the following three sections. That means standard library section, main function, and body of the function. In that we have to write the header file declaration section. See the slide, and header and declaration side, global declaration section, and class declaration and method definition section, and main function method definition section. And simply you can call it, so these are all the simply you can call it as standard library, main function, and body of the function. In that we can write include, IO stream, main, like that we can write. See here this program, simple program in this one. Include is a specific preprocessor command that effectively copies and pastes the entire text of the file, specified between the angle brackets into the source code. IO stream, which is a standard file that should come with the C++ compiler, is a short for input output stream. IO stream means input output stream header file. So this command contains for displaying and getting an input from the user. So next come to the main function. Main is the starting point of all C++ program. In main function is most important, and the function is called by the operating system when your program is executed by the computer. And braces, beginning of the process and end of the process significance. The beginning of the process, braces, curly bracket, significance the start of the block code, and the end of the curly braces significance the end of the program. It's a very, very simple program. Observe the program. It's a very, very simple program. And cout is a print statement. It prints the hello, HELL, hello, as it is without any changes. So that is comes to the body of the program. Body of the program. Data types in C++. Data types is nothing but types of data. So many types of data. So this is simply we can call it as data types. Data types we having data types are declarations for variables. Which type of values or which type of numbers and which type of data we are going to store in the variable, we have to tell the compiler. So data types are declarations. We have to declare the variable, which type for variables. So this determines the type and size of data associated with variables. For a variable of type int, that is called as integer, meaning the variable can only store integer of either 2 bytes, like that. The table, this one, see this slide table, primary data type, that is integer, float, character and void. User defined data type, structure, union, class, enumerated data type, that is called a user defined. Next, derived data type. Derived data type, arrays, functions, pointers and references. So these are the categorized in this one. For example, in primary data type, integer, it occupies the 2 or 4 bytes of memory, and float, it occupies the this is standard occupation of memory, 4 bytes. And double also called as long float, we can say long float, 8 bytes, and character is the 1 byte. It occupies the sizes, occupies the memory size. And come to next, third one is a derived data type. And derived data type means data types that are derived from fundamental data types are derived types. For example, arrays, pointers, functions, these are all comes under derived data type. And variables, for example, integer, int, we have to write the integer, that is a reserved word, we know that reserved word. The integer is the number, which does not having any decimal point, without decimal point, that is just a number, just 9, 14, 15, 19, like that. Next to double or floating point number is it is also number, but it is having the decimal point. For example, 19.9 or 17.4, a point is there, point had to come. So that is the main difference between integer and float. So integer is the number which does not having any decimal point, and float is also a number which is having the decimal point. So this is the main difference between integer number and float number. And just character is just a single character, such as A or something, C, X, single alphabet or single number, like that. And a string means stores text, like a group of characters, a set of characters. For example, Khammam, K, H, A, M, M, A, M. So these are all characters. 7 characters all together. It's called as a string. So character means only single character. String means group of characters. Okay. These are all integer data type, float data type, character data type, string data type, boolean data type. Boolean means it's having the two states, either true or false. True or false. And C++ variables, Scope is a region of the program, and broadly speaking, that there are three places where variables can be declared. This is inside a function, a block which is called as local variable. Local variable. When local variable means variables that are declared inside a function or inside a block are called as local variables, and are said to have local scope. That means we have to utilize or used within this where you declared, and that means you should not use outside of the function, outside of the block. These local variables can only be used within the function. These are where these are declared, which they are local variables can either be a variable which is declared in the body of that function, or can be defined as a function parameters in the function definition. In the definition of the function parameters, which is called formal parameters. Outside of the function, which is called global variables. Global variables means the variables which you can use anywhere in the programming. That means either main program or sub program or middle of the program, anywhere, no restrictions. You can anywhere. That is global, anywhere. You can that also defined outside of all the functions, and these are accessible throughout the program. It is called as global variables. And so once this global variable declared, these can be accessed by any function in the program. So observe this slide. And local variables. So main is the function, main function. A integer variable and B integer variable, C also integer variables. These variables declared within the function, local variables. See the global variables declaration. So this is the integer G. Integer G is the outside of the main function. Observe this slide. G is we are declared in outside of the function. That is a class global variable. There is a global variable. Global variable we have it's having the permission to access anywhere in the program, throughout the program. That is the main difference between local variable and global variable. So next one is operators. We're having so many operators: arithmetical operators, relational operators, logical operators, bitwise operators, assignment operators. So many operators are the bitwise operators like that. Arithmetical operators, we know that arithmetical operators plus, minus, asterisk, slash, mod, div. So like this, these are all. You know that plus is for addition, minus for subtraction, into means it's equivalent to star, the asterisk symbol, that is equivalent to multiplication, and modularity, mod, that is a remainder, and division, that is a quotient, like that. They are all the arithmetical operators. And next to relational operators. The relational operators shows the relation between the any two numbers. For example, say 6 and 9. We can say 6 is not equal to 9. So not equal is it shows the relation between 6 and 9. And 6 is less than 9. Less than is a symbol. It's less than is the relation. And 9 is greater than 6. So that's greater than is like that. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, equal to, not equal to. These are all relational operators. So like operator is nothing but it's a symbol. Operator is a symbol which performs some task. For example, plus. Plus is the symbol which performs addition operation like that. For example, a plus b. Plus is the operator and a and b are the operands. Operands. So next, logical operators. Logical operators, you know that and, or, not, like that. So if there are any two test conditions are there in test condition, the two test conditions will be conjuncted, the joining together the use of and operator. In this case of and operator, both test conditions should be true. Then only the entire statement becomes true. If any one of the test condition is false, the entire statement becomes false. Whereas or statements, if any one of the test condition is true or both test conditions are true, the entire statements become true. If both test conditions are false, the entire statement becomes false. So that is the next bitwise operators. And mainly these bitwise operators are using in operations on bits, binary codes, like bitwise and bitwise or, bitwise XOR, left shift to, right shift to. So these are all the bitwise operators. And C++ takes two numbers as operands and does and on every bit of two numbers. The result of AND is 1 only if both bits are 1. That means both are true. Bitwise are, it takes two numbers as operands and does OR on every bit of two numbers. The result of OR is 1 if any one of bit is 1. Like that. The left shift and right shift operators should not be used for negative numbers. If any one of the operand is negative number, it results in undefined behavior. The bitwise XOR operator is the most useful operator from technical interview perspective. It is used in many problems. So this is the example. This shifting. Observe this, right? And this is an example for operators. This is the assignment operator. Assigning means giving the values to the variables. Assigning. Equal, add equal, that means plus equal, minus equal, asterisk equal, like that. That means add, assign. After adding the existing number, after adding to existing number, then it will assign to the variable. Add, assign, like that. Assignment operator. So next is functions. Function is a very most important topics in any C programming or C++ programming. Function is a block of code with only runs when it is called. In previous slide we discussed about this modularity. So modularity is one of the advantages at C++. Thus modularity is nothing but these functions. It's a block of code which only runs when it is called, when it is required. You can pass the data from one function to another function called parameters or arguments. Arguments are parameters. So parameters are the two types, and actual parameters and formal parameters. Functions are used to perform certain actions, and they are important for reusing code. Define the code once and use it many times. Function is a set of statements to perform some task. Every C++ program has at least one function which is main. Main is also function. And most program can define additional functions. So this is the syntax of the function. So return type, function name, and parameters, and body of the function. And C++ provides some predefined functions such as main, which is used to execute code, but you can also create your own functions to perform certain actions. So this is also called as user defined functions. We are the users, created by us. So main is a standard function, predefined function. So we can create our own function name. So that is also called as user defined functions, created by the user. To create a function, specify the name of the function followed by the parenthesis as shown in the slide. See this slide, declaration, how to declare and defining the calling functions like that. And this is the main, begin integer a equal to 10 and b equal to 20 and c equal to sum. So SUM sum is the function, and a comma b are the parameters, and SUM sum is the calling function. And after that, and again sum into x comma into y is the user defined function name sum is the user defined function, and this is called as called function, and a and b are the actual parameters, and here the x comma y are the formal parameters, actual parameters and formal parameters. So where the actual parameters is the values are passing through the values through parameters. Values are passing through parameters. While calling a function, declared functions are not executed immediately. They are saved for later use and will be executed later when they are called. The call function, write the function's name followed by the two parentheses, brackets, and semicolon. And see the example in slide. And this declaration, the function name, return type, and parameters. You can write with parameters and without parameters also is there. So depends on the situation or depends on the requirement. Calling function. Functions are called by their names. If the function is without argument, it can be called directly using its name. But for functions with the arguments, we have two ways to call them: call by value and call by reference. So these are all parameters also called as arguments. Information can be passed to functions as a parameter. Parameters acts as a variables inside the function. Parameters are specified after function name. Inside the parentheses, you can add as many parameters as you want, just separated with the just comma. If there is two actual parameters, and there should be two formal parameters. So the number of formal parameters should be matched with the number of actual parameters. And calling function, call by value, call by reference. Call by value is a original value. It's not modified. As it is, the value will as it is passing through parameter. That is call by value. In case of value, in case of call by value, values being passed to the functions is locally stored by the function parameter in stack memory allocation. If you change the value of the function parameter, it is changed the current function only. So it will not change the value of variable inside the caller method, such as main. So whereas in case of see the call by value example, observe the slide, call by value. As it is, and the number will come to as it is, just passing. So whereas in the case of call by reference, original value is modified because we pass reference, that means address. We are sending the address to the function. Whereas call by value, we are sending the values to the function is called as calling the value. This call by value, calling the address, that means sending the address is the call by reference. Address of the value is passed in the function. So actual and formal arguments share the same address space. Hence, value changed inside the function. It is reflected inside as well as outside the function. Outside the function.